Nikolai Voss never expected the woman mopping the floor of his newly acquired hotel to be the reason he couldn't sleep for the next 3 weeks. He had walked into the Calloway Grand on a Tuesday afternoon, flanked by 2 of his men, expecting nothing more than a routine inspection of his latest acquisition. The hotel had been collateral in a debt that had gone spectacularly unpaid, and Nikolai had taken it the way he took everything. Without ceremony, without sentimentality, and without much interest in the details. It was an asset. He would assess it, restructure it, and move on. He did not expect to find the lobby in the middle of a thorough cleaning at 3 in the afternoon. He did not expect the woman doing the cleaning to look up at him with absolutely zero recognition in her eyes. Her name, as he would learn later, was Becca Odum. She was 26 years old, stood 5'4", and carried herself with the unhurried confidence of someone who had long ago stopped caring what other people thought about the space she occupied. She was a big woman, wide through the hips, heavy through the arms, with thick calves that strained slightly against her uniform slacks. She had dark brown hair pulled into a practical knot at the back of her neck, and there was a smear of cleaning solution on her left forearm that she hadn't noticed yet. When Nikolai Voss walked through the front door with his $2,000 shoes and his 2 bodyguards, Becca Odum looked at him the way she looked at every other guest who tracked mud across a freshly mopped floor. She looked at him like he was a problem she was about to solve. "We're cleaning this section," she said flatly, not moving the mop from where it blocked the direct path across the lobby. "You can walk around. There's a runner on the left." One of Nikolai's men, Gregor, built like a refrigerator and twice as cold, took a single step forward. "Do you know who? I know the floor's wet," Becca said, not looking up. "And I know you're standing on it." Nikolai put a hand on Gregor's arm. He stood there for a moment, watching this woman work, and felt something he hadn't felt in a very long time. It wasn't attraction. Not yet. It was simpler than that, and stranger. It was the unnerving sensation of being completely invisible to someone who should have been afraid of him. He walked around the runner. The Calloway Grand sat 12 floors high in the middle of a neighborhood that had been slowly gentrifying for 15 years, without fully committing to the project. The blocks around it were a patchwork, a Thai restaurant next to a payday loan office, a renovated loft building across from a laundromat that had been there since 1987. The hotel itself occupied the strange middle ground between those 2 worlds. It had good bones and bad management, which was exactly the kind of situation Nikolai Voss was built to exploit. What he had not accounted for was the housekeeping staff. Becca had worked at the Calloway Grand for 4 years. She knew every broken hinge, every leaky faucet, every guest who tried to leave without returning the extra towels. She knew which elevator ran slow on cold mornings and which ice machine on the 8th floor made a grinding noise at 2 a.m. that wasn't dangerous but sounded like it was. She had outlasted 3 managers and 2 ownership changes, and she had developed, in that time, a very clear sense of what the hotel needed and a very dim view of new owners who arrived with renovation plans and left 6 months later having repainted the lobby and done nothing about the plumbing. When word spread through the staff that the new owner was one Nikolai Voss, a name that made the front desk manager go visibly pale and excuse herself to make a phone call, Becca had pulled out her phone, looked him up, and felt nothing in particular. Rich, dangerous apparently, Eastern European. In her experience, rich, dangerous men who bought hotels either ignored the housekeeping staff entirely or made their lives miserable. Either way, her job was to show up, do the work, and go home. She had a mother with bad knees and a younger brother finishing his last year of community college, and she did not have the luxury of being rattled by whoever signed the paychecks. She had not expected him to come back. He came back on Thursday. He did not announce himself. He simply appeared in the 3rd floor hallway at 8:45 in the morning, wearing a charcoal jacket over a dark shirt, reading something on his phone, while Becca was stripping the linens from 304. The bathroom exhaust fan in 307 needs replacing, Becca said, without looking up from the fitted sheet she was wrestling off the mattress. It's been on the maintenance list for 6 weeks. The motor's going. There was a pause. You know who I am, Nikolai said. I know who owns the building, Becca replied. I'm telling you the exhaust fan needs replacing because whoever you're paying to handle maintenance has been ignoring the list. Another pause. She finally looked up. He was watching her with an expression she couldn't immediately categorize. Not offended. Not amused, exactly. Something more careful than either of those things. I'll have someone look at it, he said. Room 311 has a slow drain too, she added, and went back to the sheet. He had someone fix the exhaust fan by noon. The drain was cleared by end of day. Becca noted this and filed it away without comment. The trouble started, as trouble often did in Nikolai Voss's world, with someone who should have known better deciding to make a point. His name was Declan Marsh, and he ran a mid-level operation out of the waterfront district that had been encroaching on Nikolai's interests for the better part of 2 years. Declan was the kind of man who mistook aggression for strategy and loudness for power. He had sent 2 of his people to the Calloway Grand on a Friday evening with a very simple message. The hotel would start functioning as a waypoint for Declan's distribution network, or it would stop functioning as a hotel. They delivered this message to the night manager, who promptly had a panic attack in the supply closet. Becca had been finishing her shift when she heard the commotion near the front desk. She had come around the corner with her cart and found 2 men she had never seen before leaning over the counter with the particular relaxed menace of people who were used to having conversations that ended with other people agreeing to things they didn't want to agree to. The night manager was gone. The front desk clerk, a 20-year-old named Marcus, who had been on the job for 3 months, was staring at these men with his hands flat on the counter and his face the specific gray of someone trying very hard not to cry. "What can I help you with?" Becca said. Both men looked at her. The taller one, wide jaw, tattoo creeping up past his collar, took in her uniform, her cart, her size, and visibly dismissed her in the span of about a second and a half. "This doesn't concern housekeeping," he said. "It concerns me," Becca replied, "because Marcus here looks like he's about to pass out, and I'd have to be the one to clean that up." She looked at the clerk. "Marcus, go get some water. Take your break." Marcus looked at her. She nodded once. He went. The taller man straightened up to his full height, which was considerable. "You want to be very careful right now. I want you to deliver your message to the owner," Becca said, her voice level. "Not to a 20-year-old kid on his 3rd month of work. That's not how adults handle business." The second man, shorter, quieter, and therefore Becca understood instinctively the more dangerous of the 2, tilted his head slightly. He was reassessing her. She could feel it. "And how would you know how adults handle business?" the taller one said. "I wouldn't," Becca said pleasantly. "I just know how you're handling it, and it's not impressive." She pulled her phone out of her uniform pocket. "I'm going to call Mr. Voss now. You can wait, or you can leave. Either way, this conversation is done." She called Nikolai's direct line, a number the staff had been given for emergencies. He picked up on the 2nd ring. "There are 2 men at your front desk," Becca said without preamble. "They have a message for you. I don't think it's a friendly one. I've sent the clerk on break. I'm standing here with them now." A silence. Then, "Put the taller one on." She held the phone out. The tall man stared at her for a moment with something between confusion and irritation before taking it. Whatever Nikolai said, it took less than 40 seconds. The tall man's expression shifted through several stages before settling into something flat and controlled. He handed the phone back without comment. He and his partner left. Becca put her phone away and went back to her cart. When Nikolai arrived at the hotel 20 minutes later, moving through the lobby with the quiet velocity of a man who had spent decades making sure the room always knew he was in it. He found Becca restocking the supply closet near the elevator bank. "Are you all right?" he asked. She considered the question with what appeared to be genuine surprise, as though the possibility that she might not be all right had not seriously occurred to her. "Yes," she said. "Why? Those men work for someone who has been a persistent problem," Nikolai said carefully, watching her face for the particular kind of fear that information usually produced. "Okay," Becca said. "That's it? What do you want me to say?" She pulled a stack of folded towels from the shelf and placed them on the cart. "They were rude and I didn't like how they talked to Marcus. I dealt with it. You dealt with it. It's done." Nikolai studied her for a long moment. "You're not afraid of me," he said. It was not quite a question. "I don't know you well enough to be afraid of you," Becca said. She looked at him directly, her dark eyes steady and entirely frank. "You fixed the exhaust fan. You cleared the drain. That's what I know about you." For the first time in longer than he could remember, Nikolai Voss did not know what to say next. He came back again the following Tuesday, and the Tuesday after that. He told himself it was oversight. There were legitimate reasons to be present at the hotel: structural assessments, staff reviews, meetings with the contractor he'd brought in to address the plumbing situation that Becca had, apparently, been correctly identifying as a systemic failure for the better part of 2 years. He was hands-on with his properties. This was not unusual. He was aware on some level that he was lying to himself. He found her on the 9th floor, restocking the housekeeping cart from the linen closet. She had earbuds in and was mouthing words to something he couldn't hear. She pulled one earbud out when she saw him. "Audiobook," she said, preempting the question. "True crime, about a mob accountant who cooperated with the FBI. Is it good?" Nikolai asked after a moment. "Incredibly," she said. "Very educational." He almost smiled. They talked, or rather, Becca talked and Nikolai listened, which was not a dynamic he was accustomed to, and found unexpectedly that he didn't mind. She told him about the linen vendor that had been overcharging the hotel for 18 months. She told him about the guest on the 11th floor who had been renting his room by the week for 8 months, and had, over that time, quietly accumulated what she described as a genuinely concerning number of houseplants. She told him about her brother's coursework, her mother's knee replacement that had been scheduled and rescheduled twice, the terrible coffee from the cart on the corner that she bought every morning anyway, because the woman who ran it was 91 years old and had been there since before Becca was born. Nikolai listened to all of it with the focused attention he normally reserved for threat assessments. He was not, he told himself, falling for a hotel housekeeper who read true crime about people like him and had an opinion about every broken fixture in the building. He was simply recognizing an unusual person. That was all. The second incident happened on a Thursday night, and it was worse. Becca was leaving through the staff exit at the back of the building when 2 men stepped out of a dark sedan parked in the service alley. She recognized neither of them, but she recognized the quality of their attention, that particular focused stillness that meant they had been waiting for her specifically. Becca Odum, the one on the left, said, "We need you to come with us." "I don't think I'll do that," Becca said. "Mr. Marsh thinks you've been passing information to Voss about his operations." "I work housekeeping," Becca said. "I don't know anything about anyone's operations." "You made a phone call." "I called the building owner to tell him there were uninvited guests at his front desk." The man on the left reached out toward her arm. What happened next was not something Becca had planned exactly. It was more that she had grown up in a neighborhood where knowing how to make yourself very difficult to move was a practical skill, had spent 4 years hauling industrial laundry equipment and furniture and mattresses, and had, somewhere in the accumulated weight of all that physical work, developed a body that was not remotely as easy to relocate as people tended to assume. She planted her feet. She grabbed the man's outstretched wrist with both hands, dropped her weight onto her back heel, and twisted. He went sideways into the dumpster with a crash that echoed down the alley. The second man reached into his jacket. "I wouldn't," said a voice from the far end of the alley. Nikolai had arrived with Gregor, and a third man Becca didn't recognize, materializing from the shadows with the unhurried calm of people who had been tracking the situation for longer than she had known it was a situation. The second man made a calculation. He removed his hand from his jacket. The two of Marsh's people were detained efficiently and without ceremony, and Gregor made a phone call that Becca gathered was the beginning of a larger conversation. Nikolai crossed the alley to where she was standing, her breath coming slightly fast, her hands still clenched. "You were following me," she said. "I was having the alley monitored," Nikolai said, which was technically a different thing, and both of them knew it. "Because of Marsh, yes, and you didn't tell me." He paused. "I didn't want to frighten you." Becca looked at him for a long moment. The alley was quiet except for the distant sound of the city, and Gregor's voice somewhere behind them, low and controlled. "You could have told me," she said finally. "I'm not a fragile thing, Nikolai." It was the first time she had used his name. He felt it like a shift in air pressure. "I know that," he said. "I've always known that." She agreed because there was not a reasonable alternative at that point to let him have a car take her home. She did not agree to anything else, and she said so clearly, sitting in the back of the black SUV, with her hands folded in her lap and her jaw set. "I'm going to tell you something," she said, staring straight ahead, "and I need you to hear it without making it into something romantic." Nikolai, sitting across from her, said nothing. She took this as permission to continue. "I know what you are," she said. "I'm not stupid. The way Gregor talks to people, the way people talk to you, the fact that two men just tried to put me in a car to send you a message, I know what that means." She paused. "I'm not afraid of it, but I need you to understand that I have a mother who needs her knee replaced, and a brother who's 3 credits from an associate's degree, and I cannot afford to be involved in whatever this is." "I understand," Nikolai said. "Do you?" "Yes." He looked at her steadily. "Marsh is a problem I should have resolved a year ago. I didn't move on it because he hadn't directly affected my interests. That changes tonight. I'm not asking you to fight someone on my behalf." "No," Nikolai said. "You're not asking me for anything. I'm telling you what I should have done already." He paused. "Your mother's surgery, which hospital?" Becca went very still. "Why?" "Because I know people," Nikolai said simply. "Because it can be moved up. Because you've spent 4 years holding that building together, with your bare hands, and no one has done one useful thing for you in return. And that—" He stopped. His jaw tightened slightly. "That offends me." A long silence settled between them. "You can't buy me," Becca said. "I know. I mean it. If you think that fixing things makes me—" "Becca." He said her name with a quietness that stopped her. "I'm not trying to buy anything. I'm trying to—" He seemed to reach for the right word and not quite find it. "I'm not good at this." "At what?" "At wanting something I can't take." She looked him for a long time. Outside, the city moved past the tinted windows in streaks of light. "Your people," she said at last carefully, "the ones you trust. Are any of them actually trustworthy?" He considered this with what appeared to be genuine seriousness. 3 of them. And Gregor? "Gregor is loyal," Nikolai said. "Whether he's trustworthy is a more complicated question." Becca nodded slowly, as though filing this information away for future reference. "I'll think about the hospital," she said. "That's all I'm saying." He nodded. He did not push. The car stopped in front of a modest apartment building on a quiet block. She opened the door herself before the driver could get out. "Nikolai," she said, pausing with one foot on the curb. He looked at her. "The linen vendor," she said. "Hartley Supply." They've been padding invoices by about 12% for 18 months. I kept the receipts. They're in a folder in the supply closet on 3, behind the cleaning product log. She got out and walked to her door without looking back. He dealt with Marsh in the way that men like Nikolai Voss dealt with persistent problems, methodically, quietly, and in a manner that left no paperwork. Becca did not ask for details, and he did not offer them. What she knew was that on the following Monday, the night manager received a call informing him that the Calloway Grand would not be receiving any further uninvited guests, and the alley behind the staff exit was never watched again by anyone but Nikolai's own people. The Hartley supply contract was cancelled within the week. The folder behind the cleaning log had been exactly where Becca said it was. 3 weeks after the night in the alley, Becca's mother had her surgery scheduled. Moved up by 6 weeks through a channel, Nikolai did not explain, and she did not press him on. She sent him a text message that said only, "Thank you. That's still not an answer to anything." He texted back, "I know, I'm patient." She read it twice and put her phone face down on the kitchen table and sat with that for a while. He found her in the hotel laundry room on a Wednesday morning, feeding sheets into the industrial folder, while a machine the size of a small car thundered beside her. She was the only one in there. She had headphones on again. Same audiobook, different chapter, based on the expression on her face, which was the particular focused frown of someone encountering information they found morally interesting. She saw him in her peripheral vision and pulled the headphones down around her neck. "The accountant cooperated," she said, by way of greeting. "He's in witness protection in Arizona." "Good ending," Nikolai said. "Is it?" She fed another sheet into the folder. He spent 8 years helping someone move money for terrible things. Then he got scared and traded information to save himself. "I'm not sure that's a good ending. I think that's just a survivable ending." Nikolai leaned against the wall, watching her work. "Those are different things." "Yes," she said. "They are." She didn't look at him, but her voice had shifted into something more careful. "I've been thinking about what you said. In the car, which part? The part where you said you wanted something you couldn't take." The folder accepted another sheet with a mechanical thump. "Most men in your position would have just taken it anyway. I'm aware of that. Why didn't you?" He was quiet for a moment. The laundry machine churned beside them, and the sound was enormous and strangely private. "Because you're the first person in a very long time," Nikolai said, "who has been exactly what they appear to be. No performance, no calculation." He paused. "I didn't want to ruin that." Becca turned to look at him fully. She had a way of looking at people, direct, measuring, without the social softening that most people applied to make sustained eye contact feel less like an examination. And she turned it on him now. He held it. He was one of perhaps 4 people on Earth who did not eventually glance away. "I'm not going to become someone who disappears when you need her to," she said. "I'm not going to be quiet about things that are wrong because it's inconvenient. I'm not built that way. I know. And I'm not going to pretend I fit into whatever world you move in. I don't. I probably never will. I know that too. Then what are you actually asking for?" He crossed the laundry room, moving slowly, giving her every opportunity to step back. She didn't. "I'm asking," he said, when he was close enough that she could have put a hand flat on his chest and pushed him away without effort, "to be someone you trust enough to have the conversation. That's all." She looked up at him. Her expression was not soft, exactly. It was considered. It was the face of someone doing honest math. "You have a lot of ground to cover," she said. "I know, and I'm not easy." "No," Nikolai agreed. "You're the most difficult person I've met in 30 years. That's not a complaint." The corner of her mouth moved. Not quite a smile, but adjacent to one. "The exhaust fan in 6 and 14 started making noise yesterday," she said. "I'll have it fixed by noon." "You do that," she said, and turned back to the sheet folder. He stood there for another moment, watching her heavy, capable hands feed the linen through the machine. The same hands that had thrown a grown man into a dumpster, that had catalogued every broken thing in this building for 4 years, that had quietly, methodically documented 18 months of fraudulent invoices in a folder nobody else had bothered to look behind. He had spent his entire adult life in rooms full of dangerous people, and he had walked into this hotel to find the most formidable person in it, wearing a housekeeping uniform and mopping a lobby floor. He left her to her work. The exhaust fan in 614 was fixed before noon. It was the beginning of a very long negotiation, the kind with no fixed terms and no clear end, between a man who had spent 40 years taking what he wanted and a woman who had spent 26 years holding everything together with her own 2 hands. Neither of them was entirely sure who was winning. That, Becca suspected, was probably the point.